In this video of Make Your Own Discord Music Bot, we will add Command Handler, and Command Handler is a dynamic framework that will allow you to execute commands that exist. So ping, pong. So ping exists in this. To create new commands, we can just type this. There we go, now we have a pong command. Let's get started. Hello there, so we left off with our little bot here. Now, I think we can improve on that. So in this video, we'll do just that. Now I am using 0PG for this, because why not? I renamed this to 0PG, so basic music bot is now 0PG, so keep that in mind. We have all the PGs, they are complete now. They should be. So, handlers. In this video, we're going to handle commands. So, make a folder called commands. Then make a folder called, not in commands, but make a folder called handlers, like that. So, what will handlers do? Well, eventually we're going to handle music in here. Make it easier to do that, but in handlers, we're going to have a file called command handler for this video. So these videos will be separated into little modules. File will actually have and explain the command handling process. So we're going to import read synchronous, which means it doesn't take time, or it just stops the current. It's complex to explain, but we don't wait for it, basically, yeah. No, we wait, okay. So we go into command handler and we import read synchronously, or sync, from file service. And then we import resolve from path, like that. Okay, so now we've imported them. We're going to export a class. Now to do that, we type export class command service. Now when we export a class, we can import it similar to this. And that is very important. So we're going to export command handler. So commands, inside command handler, we make commands equals to a new map. So commands map is going to store commands. That's what it's going to stop. So async init, so we're initializing this and it takes time, so it's asynchronous. So const command directory equals resolve. Now it's probably better to do path, commands path equals resolve commands, like that. And then const files. So what this will do is it will go and get the root directory and just add commands on the end. So it will get this folder and then add commands off of this, which basically means it will get the absolute directory. So now read directory synchronously. So we go into commands and read every file within the commands folder. And then we pass in the commands path, like that. Then after we've done that, we're going to iterate over the command files. So for const file of files up, files, const, now we're going to actually import it. Now, a fun fact about import is it's actually async. It takes time. It's a promise. That's what, when we use async, we're dealing with promises which we await. And then we await import. So we're going to destructure this. We're going to await import. Now we're going to import. We're going to go back 2 directories into the root folder. And then we're going to go into /commands, and then we're going to make sure this is backticks. We're going to use a template string, which is just file. So let's say we add ping.js in there. So command untitled.js. These are the two files we're going to work with in this video. So it will just add one of these at the end. And now, the default value, we get default. For some reason, we have to type default when we're importing this way. And the default is command. We set the command default to command. So basically what this does, if I type resolve A, or as A, it's kind of like this. So A is now resolve. A points to resolve, and in the same way, command points to default, and the default export from commands. So that would be export default, like that. We'll get onto that in a minute, it's quite complex. It sounds complex, it isn't though. So command, now we're going to use Node.js version 14 syntax. So make sure you have Node V. Glitch does not support this, and we're going a bit ahead of them, so make sure you're aware of that. Okay, so command .name. So basically, if the command is null or undefined, then don't run this and don't throw an error when it fails, or if it fails. So if there's no command name, so that might be command.js does not have a name, and the command name's equal to this, an empty string. So then we set this commands to, so we actually set the command name, we identify it with the command name. The command name is unique for each command, and then we set it to the value of the command. So we can type this commands.get command name and or ping, and it should work like that, and that will get the instance of the command. Okay, now we've initted it. Now that's a hard word to say. So we're initializing it, that's what it stands for. We're getting the files ready so that we can use them. Okay, so now let's do something here. Console.log loaded. Now we're gonna type use template strings. Loaded this.commands .size commands. That's it. That's all we need to do, and we'll see this in the console when that is going on. So okay, so in bot.js we're going to import command handler. Make sure you have .js at the end, otherwise this might cause an error for you, and we'll say error module not found, because by default it wasn't adding .js at the end, and it's a requirement with this configuration of ES6. So we have command handler here, so const commands command handler, because new command handler, like that. Done. Okay, so we're not done yet. So command handler dot initialize. This is a promise, so is this, and it will do it, though it will still do it. So command handler dot handle. Now we're gonna handle a message. So we're going to handle the message, we're going to pass that in, but obviously we have no function that does that. So async handle, we get a message. Now try catch. So if this throws an error, if this throws some sort of error, then this will be executed. So if this fails, then this will be executed. So const prefix equals dot, so the commands start with a dot. Keep that in mind. Const args, so message.content, so these are the command arguments. If I typed play ADAMJR, or just play Discord bot, what would happen is message content is equal to this as a string. So it's like this right here. Now we're going to type split space. So now this will get the space. So this will turn it into an array, which is a list of strings. And separate it by spaces into separate items. And then we just slice one. Dot slice one. And that just slices off the first element and starts at at 1, which is actually the second element because arrays start at 0, which is a bit confusing really for some people. But arrays, if I type args0, that would get the first argument. So numbers start from 0 when we're using indices. An index, that's how we access array items. So dot ping or dot play discord dot, sorry, args. So if I type args0, that would return discord, wouldn't it? Because that's the first element in the args, and then bot, etc. That will be 1. Hopefully you get the point. Now we're going to get the command name. Message content. Okay, so we're going to do something similar here. We're going to split it by spaces. Then we're going to get the first element. And then we're going to slice off the prefix by its length. And the length is 1. So we have ping here. So we'll use play discord. So play discord here. Now we have just play. And now we have play. That's what happens. You can also you can also have some array functions on a string as well, which is quite helpful. So const command equals this dot commands. Now we're going to get the command by the command name. This dot commands dot get command name, and there might not be a command name. So if there's not a command name, well, we want to execute anyway. Command dot execute. Pass in the message. Okay, so this will throw an error if the command doesn't exist. So you put a question mark here, and that will only execute the command if it exists. So then we're going to spread the arguments into, or spread the command arguments into the arguments of this. So this will do. We pass in the message, then we pass in discord bot from the one of the previous examples. It looks like that. It passes in all the string arguments from here as an array. So if it fails, what do? We need to await this, by the way. What do we do if that fails? Well, message dot channel dot send. We're going to send an error. We're going to use a warning. So we're going to use that. That was Windows dot. I typed. Now we're going to type error. Now how do we get the error? We get it in here, error. Now there might not be an error for whatever reason, error.message. And we're done with the command handling. Finally. So in bot.js, this will be valid syntax here. We just need to await this so it runs correctly. Now we can add the command template. So we're going to type command.js in here. So in command.js, we're going to type export class, default class, command, and this will be the template for all commands to follow. We're going to add a name, which is, as we said, it's going to be an empty string by default, and it's going to get ignored when we set it, so it can't be executed. Speaking of executing, we're going to add an execute function here. Then we're going to have arguments. We're going to spread the arguments like that. Kind of unspread it. We spread it into this function here. And then we get it back here. That makes sense. And then we throw a new type error. Command not implemented. And obviously when we throw an error in here, it will show up in here and this will be executed. And the message is equal to this, as the message is set within here when we new it up. Or just type this. When we type new type error, the message is equal to this. Okay, so let's, after all of that, let's type ping.js, make a class. I'm going to export. Now, instead of actually exporting the class, we're going to import this command class here. So import command from command. So now we're going to export default new class extends or implement, sorry, command. Now implements are not TypeScript, extends. So now in here, what we're going to do, well, we're going to have a name because name is defined within here. We need a name. And we're going to set this to ping. We have a somewhat functional command there. Now, we need to type .js, remember. Let's just type ping, first of all. Command not implemented. What if I type dot? Nothing happens. Okay. So that means that this was actually executed and the execute function was called on the base class, which it extends here. Okay, so now we're going to actually execute this. We don't need to pass anything other than the message. Message.reply pong. So we can await this async. And then we can type ping and see what happens. It says pong. There we go. There we have our ping command. So in the next video we'll add play and stop commands and actually add a music handler. We'll also add join and leave commands. Also join ADAMJR community if you need support with this or have any errors. So see you there.